Pain and rage, I think, is the connection that we need to talk about today. This is DaviD TaL. This is the Balagan Connection, and we're going to be talking about hostages. We're going to be talking about how I feel watching all of this happening, and as a reflection, I think most of Israelis, most of the Israelis feel. We'll be talking about what exactly happened, what is going to happen, what's connected to the Middle East and specifically to the Trump administration. We'll be going into C.S. Lewis's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I think some of you remember that from when you were a kid, at least I do, and then kind of make that connection. So stay with me to the end, and let's see how all of this comes together. And it comes together first and foremost with the Bibas family. I know we're seeing them in the news. We're hearing about the story in so many different ways, but more than anything, I want to go back to the fact that this is a family. These are people, and I know that the Bibas family became a symbol. But let's go back to the story. I mean, mom, dad, and two kids. Yarden, by the way, Bibas is the father, the same name as my son, and Shiri Bibas had two young, red-headed, beautiful babies, and they were kidnapped, taken, hijacked, whatever you want to call them, on the 7th of October during this terrible, terrible massacre that takes place. The terrorists came into Nir Oz, that's where they live, were on a rampage to kill people that they couldn't take and take people that they could. And one of the things that I've been kind of weirded out by listening to the whole story to this is that it wasn't the Hamas that took the Bibas family. It was another little faction, a terrorist organization based on a clan that lives in Gaza called the Mujahideen, for lack of better terminology. And after the Hamas had broken the fence, broken the openings in the fence, opened the openings in the fence, they actually went into the further areas, and a smaller terrorist group actually saw the opportunity and went into the areas that the Hamas had already slaughtered people and found people that were still alive and dragged them back into Gaza. And that's what happened with the Yarden family. And mom, dad, and the kids were taken. The dad was taken directly by one organization, directly into Hamas. And he's been in there for 500 days, was released 2 weeks ago, Yarden. But his wife and two children were taken by these mujahideen that actually dragged them into Gaza. And we actually have a video of them in Gaza, meaning we know that they made it alive into Gaza. We know that they were not slaughtered. We know that what the mujahideen took was not bodies into Gaza. And that's the last time we heard about them. More than 500 days without any news. And the Bibas babies, Kfir, who was 8 months old, and Ariel, who was 4 years old when they were taken, became the symbol. And the Hamas would not release any knowledge about them. We tried everywhere possible. I mean, these are children. What are we playing with? We asked the world to intervene. We asked the United Nations to intervene. We asked the Red Cross to intervene, but we got no information whatsoever. Yarden, the father, was released about 2 weeks ago, and he didn't have any idea what happened to his family. Though we found out later that the Hamas had gone to him while he was in captivity, being held in a cage in a tunnel in Gaza, and told him that his wife and children were killed. I mean, I can't help but stress the demonic aspect of what we're doing, what we're talking about here. And then, after Yarden was released, we have this hostage release program that's been going on for the last couple of weeks. And the Hamas told us that they are going to be releasing 4 bodies. And the 4 bodies will be uh, in coffins, but even then, they didn't tell us who the 4 bodies were. They didn't tell us what the names were. So they were keeping this hope among the family. I mean, the sister of Shiri got on Israeli TV and said, "Please don't talk about them like they're dead. We don't know until they come. We're not sure." And then they were released. Well, I say released. They were actually paraded through Gaza in this sickening, demonic festival of triumph that the Hamas has been kind of messing with. And just to give you the visual, we're talking about black coffins with pictures of an 8-month-old baby on them, okay, with pictures in the background of a Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, with vampire teeth, being blamed for their death, and they're being paraded through the streets of Gaza, brought into this area, unloaded from those trucks. The black coffins actually were handed over to the United Nations, handed over to the Red Cross. And we found out a couple of very interesting aspects of that. One, they locked the coffins and they threw away the key. That means they didn't give us the key to the locked coffins with the remains inside. I mean, who's doing? And when we did get into the coffins, they had put jihadi Muslim propaganda in the coffins together with the babies. And then they're handed over to the Red Cross. The Red Cross, who has been a total failure. The only thing that they've done is actually taken possession of baby bodies and driven them out of Gaza. I mean, we couldn't get them to check anything. We couldn't get them to bring medication. We couldn't get them to tell us if the babies were alive or dead. And the Red Cross is now taking all kinds of, pride in being a part of this hostage release situation. It's not a hostage release. I've said this before. It is a ransom of somebody who was kidnapped. And they're brought into Israel, handed over to Israel, and we take them to the forensic center in Israel in order to identify the bodies. And very quickly, we identified the bodies of the 83-year-old man who was returned. And I just, it chokes me up to say it, and the 2 babies, Ariel and Kfir. But when they went to identify the remains of the body of the mother, the DNA didn't match. And turns out that Hamas had returned the wrong body. It was somebody that they dug up from somewhere. It's not any of the hostages. It's not anything. And just this terrible feeling of anger, of these demonic games that they were playing. And the remains were not the remains of Shiri Bibas. And after Israel made so much noise all over the world, they said, "Oh yes, we made a mistake," and the body was returned a couple days later. It was a family, mom, dad, and kids, who were dragged out of their home in Nir Oz. Shiri's parents, by the way, were murdered by the same people that killed her. They were not soldiers. They were not in a military area. They were not in occupied territory. They were not in some kind of colony. They were in their homes inside Israel. But it's very clear how they died and when they died. And we have now had time to go over the remains of Shiri. And it turns out that it's the same. She was strangled also. And they tried to cover it up. There is no way I can explain how I feel even just talking about this. And well, let's go into what's happening now and literally as I'm speaking, and this has been kind of recorded on Friday night. The Hamas is releasing 6 more hostages as part of this hostage release process that we call the first stage of the agreement. Again, I'm stressing it's not a hostage agreement. It's not a release. It's not nothing. It's ransoming. We are ransoming these people, and the six that are going to be released are Omer Weinkrit, that was actually taken on the Nova Festival. Omer Shentov, Elia Cohen, 23, 27, and 22 years old. Tal Shoham, that was actually taken from inside Be'eri. He's 39 years old. And two more hostages that are a different story. An Ethiopian Jew who had serious mental problems somehow made his way into Gaza, was grabbed by the Hamas, and has been held as a bargaining chip for almost 10 years. Another Bedouin, Muslim Bedouin named Hisham As-Said, okay, who's been held in captivity. Again, a weird, eccentric person. His family says he had mental problems, but he had made his way into Gaza, was released, made his way, and now Hamas has been using them. And these mental patients, together with regular people, together with bodies of babies, have been used as bargaining chips in this dance of I don't know. And again, you hear them talking about it, it's like some kind of an agreement. It's like some kind of transaction. You hear some of the people in the world talking about it. It's like a transaction. You give this, we give this, we give this, we give this. And what I'm trying to remind everybody, what we feel deeply, is it's not a transaction. It's people. And what do you do, or how do you relate to something like this? And I know sometimes I'm upset with my government. Why are we playing this game? We're playing this game to get as many of the hostages out. And again, the feeling that I have is I would like just to flatten Gaza right now. In the meantime, okay, we have gotten 25 live hostages from this arrangement, but there's still 4 more dead hostages as part, and we know the names, as part of this first phase of this agreement between us and Hamas. And basically what should be happening now is we should be going into a second phase of the agreement, where we start talking about the final phase. Now, don't forget, there are still 65 hostages in Gaza, in Hamas hands, that they're going to be using as bargaining chips in this coming negotiation. Hamas is using these hostages as tools for psychological and political warfare. And they're justifying this by the fact that they keep on saying, well, we don't have an army, we don't have tanks, we don't have airplanes. So what we can do is play these horrific, sadistic games. And they're doing it because they feel that they have a psychological warfare going on with Israel and with the West. They're doing this because it gives them propaganda, it gives them exposure, and they stage these elaborate parades when releasing the hostages as propaganda tools. They record them, they send them out on YouTube, they bring people to watch it. I was looking at the films of these ceremonies. They're regular Gazans, thousands of regular people that come out to take pictures with their cell phones and hold up their children in order to see better how these coffins are being moved out. And they're all cheering, and there's music, and they're laughing, and there's somebody walking around selling popsicles. No, popsicles or something else. I mean, this is how they portray themselves as victors. They're manipulating public perception. Okay, they're making it look like they're the winners in this terrible war. They're actually making their people feel that this is the win. And these spectacles are designed to humiliate Israel and to create a narrative of strength. And again, the idea is what you do on film, what you do on TV. That's what really counts. And here's the thing: the world is giving them backing. The world, not backing, the world is giving them a platform. And this is how the Hamas actually fights this war. I was looking closely at the pictures of some of these ceremonies, and two things actually kind of sparked my I don't know if imagination. First thing is this. First of all, people are well fed, well clothed, clean. They don't look like they've gone through a humanitarian crisis. They seem very, very happy and glad about what's going on. Two, they put a row of soldiers in front of the crowd in Hamas uniforms that we haven't seen during the whole war, holding automatic weapons. But if you look closely at the soldiers that are standing in front of the crowd, they're kids. They're you can see by the body language, and you can see by their physique that they're 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old teenagers. Now they have the mask and they have the gun and they're trying to look, but they're kids. And here's the thing: we have been fighting these kids. If he's in a Hamas uniform with a weapon, even if he is 15 years old, he is a legitimate military target. But again, these are the children that we're being accused of killing in Gaza. And I can't help but kind of repeat how they're playing this game. And again, these ceremonies are for the media exploitation more than anything. They're orchestrating these hostage releases. They're making maximum media coverage in order to shift blame onto Israel while downplaying their own atrocities, including the murder and the abuse of these tiny babies while they were in captivity. The international response, the US, the Europeans, global leaders responded to what they saw. Most of the West responded. The rest of the world didn't really care. And everybody was horrified. Everybody was upset. But I think the only one whose reaction, I think, carried some weight was President Trump and the American administration, who actually said, including Marco Rubio, that said, this is horrific, this is atrocious, this cannot be allowed to continue. But as much as I heard, even those who were supporting Israel in this, they're saying it was terrible, nobody said anything about what to do with Hamas. Nobody said anything about condemning. Nobody condemned Hamas. I haven't heard the United Nations, who blamed Israel for war crimes, saying anything about this. I haven't heard China, Russia, all the other. I haven't heard South Africa that took the Israeli government to the international court. Nobody is saying anything on this level. It's all about, okay, those who are even reacting to this are saying, oh, it's a shame, and that's it. And that makes us feel a little bit different. I want to go a little bit in how we are watching this, and I need you to stay together with me to the end of this, because this is important to kind of feel this out. Just watching and experience this it makes me sick and angry at the same time. They're terrorists. I call them terrorists, by the way. And, and there are a lot of people who say, no, they're not free. No, they would call themselves terrorists, because this whole festival that they put together was created or was planned in order to create terror in our hearts. They say that we want you to be terrified of us. That's what they say. That's why they do it. It's orchestrated to create a sense of terror. So I'm going to call them terrorists. They're going to call themselves terrorists. And they are trying to put fear in our hearts. And I can't help. I mean, why am I the only one? But I mean, I'm not the only one, but we can't help but be sickened by seeing these coffins of 9-year-old babies that were strangled and crushed being paraded as some kind of trophy. You can only be sickened by thousands of regular people standing and cheering and taking pictures and holding up their children to see the spectacle. And I'm trying not to feel, and this is me sharing part of what I'm feeling lately. I'm trying not to feel a deep sense of vengeance and hate against each and every one of those so-called civilian, innocent, non-combatant victims that are cheering and supporting this terrible spectacle. If you're standing and watching this and cheering and taking pictures and showing it to your children, you are not a victim. I'm angered by the hypocrisy of the Hamas and the Palestinians and even the whole Muslim world. They're saying, "Oh, this is just normal resistance." Even the whole left leaning elements in the Western civilization who are seeing these death mongering people as poor victims. I'm stunned and turned by all of this, and I tend to sink into the frustration of not being in Israel and not being able to do anything to save my people. To watch the clips celebrating this horrific event, and I can't help but being reminded of a movie that I watched when I was growing up. Most of you will probably connect to this too. I don't know if you remember The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which was a movie, by the way, it now belongs to Disney, that was based on the book of the same name that was written by C.S. Lewis. And there's a scene in the movie where Aslan, who is a depiction of the lion, the noble, and of Jesus, basically, handing himself over to the evil witch to be killed. And I still remember as a child watching the scene of Aslan being tied and humiliating, laying bound and shamed on this stone table while all of the demons and the crazy people dance around like there's no tomorrow and laugh at him and shame him and that's the feeling I get from these terrible ceremonies that we're watching in Gaza. But I have to remind myself that as horrific as the scene of Aslan being shaved and murdered on the stone table, the scene after that, the next scene, which C.S. Lewis actually is illustrating an amazing event in the Bible. So the book and the movie are basically an allegory of the Bible. And the next scene is when the two young girls wait and Aslan rises from the dead. And I want to say this. When I despair and when I have a hard time and when I'm feeling the frustration, I remember one, that there is a scene after this scene and I know it's coming. And two, I look at the comments coming in on the different platforms where I put this content. And I feel the love and the support of those who reach out to me with supporting words and love, and through me to my people. And I feel that even though I walk through the valley of death, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, God, Jesus, even Aslan, and even all of you are with us. And I want to say from my deepest feelings, thank you. Thank you for supporting us. I can talk about the fact that there's not enough people, and I can talk about the fact that the majority of the world does not. But I want to thank you who do support me and through me, my people, and all of the people who support God's chosen people. I want to say from here on this platform, on this terrible, terrible day, I want to say thank you. It's very, very important. And that is the Balagan Connection for today. Thank you for joining me. We will be talking about Israel the next time we get up here. We will be on our way to Israel in 2 weeks, so pray for us for that. If you do want to support something directly, connect to Gihon Springs. There's a link down underneath, or go to gihonsprings.com. And that is a ministry that we actually are part of, that supports Israel, that supports the IDF, that supports different military facilities and believing ministries in Israel. So if you want to do that, connect to gihonsprings.com and pray for us. This is going to be a hard week. This is going to be a hard connection. This is DaviD TaL. This is a Balagan Connection. Hope to see you soon.